Welcome to the best gambling show on the internet. This is the home of the money pick. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Week 12 upsets to bet. Thanksgiving video up Monday. Spread video is up Tuesday. Let's get this money. First game, we got the Baltimore Ravens at the Jacksonville Jags. Jags are +4. I think the Jags win this game. And a lot of people were even saying it was an upset for the Jags to cover the 4. But I think the Ravens are prime to be upset here. Listen, the way to attack the Jags defense is to attack their secondary. You want to go 3 receivers. You want to throw it deep against them. You really want to take advantage of their man-to-man coverage. But with all the injuries the Ravens have at wide receiver, I just don't see them taking advantage of it. And Mark Andrews, it looks like he'll play, but really that offense just revolves around Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. And after that, there isn't a whole lot. And even the run game has been disappointing for me this year. And another thing about the Ravens, they are one of the most confounding teams in this league when we really look at it, man. I mean, they leave teams in games. They always let backdoor covers happen, and they'll completely outplay a team for 3 quarters, then completely collapse in the 4th. And they couldn't even cover against the Panthers. And this Jags offense, they're better than people think. They consistently move the ball, and ever since Etienne came in for Robinson, this offense has a completely different verb. It has a completely different look, and they move the ball consistently. And I think this Jags offense is due for a breakout performance. I think they're going to whip through those chains, get into the 24-27 range, and I think that's enough to threaten and probably beat the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are a team that's due for a letdown, kind of like the Giants last week. Give me the Jags in the first upset. Next game, we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Tennessee Titans. Titans are +1.5. I'm not sure this should be an upset, but it is. And judging by the comments in the video yesterday when I made the Titans a money pick, it obviously did ruffle some feathers, and it obviously is in the upset range. And I feel like this is a trap set by Vegas. Listen, I wasn't high on Tennessee going into the season, but we seem to always pick them to cover week in and week out, and I think they win this game. And when you look at the Titans, you start with the offensive line, you start with Ben Jones, the center, and you start with Downing with those good first half play calls. And Tannehill's starting to play a little bit better. I'm not saying he's good. I'm not trying to weave some sort of story to tell you guys, but he's playing pretty good football, especially in the first half of games. And we put big money on the Bengals last week, and they came through with us. But it's a new week. Let's not live in last week. And this Bengals defense, they got problems, man. When you let Kenny Pickett put 4 good drives against you, that's when I start to worry. That's when I start to ask some questions. A question I got to ask about the Bengals is, can they stop the run? They've been up and down this year in their run defense, and when King Henry's looking at your front 7, you don't want to have questions about it. I think Derrick Henry gets over 100, and I think this Titans defensive line controls the game. Listen, Jeffrey Simmons has been out the last 2 weeks. Bud Dupree has been out the last 2 weeks. You bring those 2 bulls in the China shop in against this Bengals offensive line, I just see Joe Burrow hitting the ground a lot. I see him hitting the ground a lot, and I see it being a borderline bloodbath. Give me the Titans, defensive football, running the ball. Titans beat the Bengals. I'm pretty damn sure about it. Next game, speaking of an ugly game, we got the Denver Broncos. Hack it. The Carolina Panthers. Panthers are +2.5. If Walker plays, I'm going Panthers here. And a lot of you guys wanted about the Broncos last week. I tried talking you out of it. I think I was successful. We saw them in a similar situation last week. People thought they were favored against the Raiders. They come out and lose the game in spectacular fashion. This Broncos offense is terrible. I know stat-wise they're not the worst offense in this league, but let's be honest, those who watch film, and we all have to sit through the Broncos game, right? Because they're all on prime time. We know this is probably the worst offense in football, and people are blaming the offensive line. And listen, the offensive line isn't great, but Russell America Wilson is floating into sacks. He really is, man. And the Panthers defensive line, with Brown with the bull rush and the 3 technique, Burns with the speed rush and the 9 technique. I just think they get to Russell too damn much. And I could even see a white flag come up from Denver this game. I think we might even see a ripping sighting by the second half. Nat Hackett, he's completely lost this locker room. I think this defense is going to start to give up. I mean, they put up valiant effort after valiant effort, but there's only so much they can do. And when you look at this Panthers offensive line, they're not good pass blocking, but if they're going forward, if they're running with Foreman, I think they get more going on offense than the Broncos. That's not saying a whole lot. Broncos can't run the ball either. Panthers run the ball better. Panthers win this damn game. And at this point, if we're looking at the morale of both sides, I feel like the Panthers defense will play better than the Broncos defense. Give me the Panthers with the points, with the money line, whatever the hell you want to bet. Next game, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Seattle Seahawks. Raiders are plus 3.5. I know. You. Someone probably wants to grab him by my big head and just slam it against the wall. I understand, but last week I snuck the Raiders onto the list. I'm sure you guys saw me sneak it backdoor onto the list, and I'm doing it again. And when I look at this Raiders team, I should see an offense that has all the semblances of being good, yet there's just a hair off, a millimeter off here from being a successful offense. But I think this Hawks team is due for a letdown. I think the Raiders can attack them aerially. I'm not sold on this Hawks young defense. I'm not sold on them bouncing back from that Tampa Bay loss. And when you look at the Raiders, they run the ball, and they got Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has been one of the best receivers this year, even with the mess that is that Josh McDaniels Raiders offense. There isn't a lot of science. This Raiders defense hasn't been good. Let's be honest, Chandler Jones has been an absolute milk carton on the edge. He hasn't helped Crosby in the pass rush at all. But I think this Raiders defense is just enough to force stops. I think we see a slower game from the Seahawks than normal. I actually like the Raiders' run defense more than most people. I would want to throw it against them. I just wonder how aggressive the Hawks will be with Geno Smith. Hawks with a letdown here. Give me the Raiders. Big surprise. I might have to eat my words on this. Last game, and we're going to Thanksgiving. We got the Detroit Lions at the Buffalo Bills. Lions are plus 9.5. Listen, if it's past Thanksgiving, shut this video off. But why can't the Lions win this game? Did anyone come back and eat crow after questioning my credibility when I picked the Lions to beat the Giants last week? What more do the Lions have to do for you to let me include them in this list? To let me ponder the fact that they could win a game? They've been in this list all year. They've been winning us money, and they even win the games in money line. I know 9.5 is a lot. I know this Bills team is an absolute juggernaut on the offensive side of the football. But people said the same thing to me when I picked the Dolphins to beat the Bills earlier in the year. The Bills are untouchable. The Bills aren't the 89 49ers. They're not the 92 Cowboys. They're a vulnerable team that churns the ball over. And like I said last week, after the bye week, this Lions defense has been completely different, man. Hutchinson and Kaminsky getting a consistent pass rush. Okuda covering a little bit better. I just think this Lions team has balls, man. And if you got balls in this league, you can play with anyone. And we know, I'm not trying to throw in like the magic potion of Thanksgiving, But you know and I know that Thanksgiving Day always brings a little bit of pixie dust, always brings a little bit of magic for the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell is willing this team to victories. And one thing people seem to just throw out about the Lions is the proficiency and the consistency of this offense the whole year. I love their scheme. I love their run game. I love their play action game. And when you got St. Brown in the slot, that really gives Goff an easy outlet. And we got a Bills defense that's still beat up. I don't think they'll be getting the 4 or 5 starters back. And when you look at this Bills defensive line, Rousseau, Von Miller, Ed Oliver, yeah, they're great in the pass rush, but I'm going back to my earlier point this year. If you get in big formations, if you play fuck you, smash mouth football, you can negate their pass rush. And the way Swift and Williams are running, the upset is alive here. The upset lives on here. The home of the upset, the home of the money pick. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. The best gambling show on the internet. Happy Thanksgiving.